All right. All right, so moving on, a few other things we're going to look at as part of documents. We talked about titles, headings, headers and footers, page numbers, the logo. Next thing is margins. You want to have decent margins. If you're printing hard copies like these, you want to have at least 1/2 inch margin so that if you punch hole the side of the document with a 3-hole puncher, it doesn't come over your text. Now, today we have less and less hard copied printed documents, so smaller margins are fine. They just don't look very nice on the screen if they're less than 1/2 inch, but you can go as low as 1/4 inch as long as you're consistent. But again, your document will look a little, crammed up and using all the space. So half an inch is good. It works on print, it works on screen. If you have a thick document, you might want to think of a left margin that's at least 3/4 inch or an inch, so that when it binds, it's easy to open and you're not hiding any text. Okay, but I usually use 1/2 inch. That's kind of our ILIA standard all around, top, bottom, sides, because it gives us more space to do things and spread out our text. Charts and graphs. I saw Jenna, she had a couple of charts or a graph up there. That's good to use to illustrate ideas and things like that. Okay, so there it is. But in this example here, there's different ways to align your text. In this case, you are using the text next to the chart. You can move this around, I believe. You can create your margins. You can decide how much your margins are. You don't want big margins or small margins. You can always put also a border, I believe. So if you go here and choose the color, you can use a blue color border and it would match your text. You don't want very thick borders. They don't look nice. Also, if you're printing, it's going to eat up some of your ink. So remember, you can choose here. Usually 1 point is the most you want to do. 1/2 point looks really nice, but you can go up to a point. And then now you can adjust your margins, maybe 1/4 inch round. You can move this, around in your document as you want. As you can see here, you've wrapped the text. You don't want to wrap the text with a title. So you want to put here break text, which means the text would come, where's your text gone? There it is. It would come above, in this case, your, you got to be careful with these images. Sometimes they float around in the document. There's a way to lock them so that doesn't happen. I think with, you can click on images here, adjustments, text wrapping is where you can set those up. Position. So move with text or fixed position on page. If I choose fixed position on page, it's never going to move from this spot, regardless what happens to the text. If I say move with text, what's going to happen, if I press enter here, it's going to push the image below, which is nice because sometimes the image is part of the text. Microsoft Word back in the day couldn't get this right and it was very frustrating. That's like 20 some years ago. But now these tools, fix this problem and it's easy to synchronize it. All right, so understand these features. When you're playing with pictures, you want them to be big and nice. This afternoon, I was on a presentation with some guy from Harvard. His images were so bad. He did screenshots. They were very pixelized. They were not sharp, but this is a nice picture here. It's sharp. You can see the text. You can read it. You can see the colors. Now, be careful when you resize images. Don't resize it from one direction like this. It skews your fonts. You want to always use the corner. Go like that. Okay, that's a problem I've seen our second quarter report, our 2Q report. When they put in the images, they did not keep the aspect ratio. So you got some ratio, whatever this is, 8 inches by 6 inches. If you make it smaller, you want it 4 by 3 or 2 by 1.5, so that it looks proper, doesn't look distorted. All right, so these are some tips when it comes to images. Tables, I saw that, let's go to Sumaya. I saw that Sumaya was using a table. This is nice. Usually you don't want to start a table with a bullet point like this. It just looks weird. So maybe a point like that is appropriate. Maybe just use columns instead of tables. If you're using a table, you can color code the top row. That's a great idea. You might want to always center your headers like this. It makes it look better. When you center things, you want to make sure there's no space here. So something is not right. See here, when you click on this cell, see this cursor at the top? Your indent is very small from the edge of the cell, whereas here, it's much further away. So in order for the two to look symmetrical, you want to move this just like the other one. Now they're both centered. Okay. It's not uncommon to have different fonts for your tables. So if you're using, in this case, Times New Roman here, you can make this something like Arial Narrow, for example, or Oswald, and a smaller font or something. It's very normal to have different fonts in tables, so again, it could stand out, okay? But it doesn't have to. It could be the same font, but usually the important thing is if you use one font in one table, you gotta follow the same font in the next table, okay? All right, any questions so far?
No,